I want to thank Steve for giving my presentation for me because he basically said everything I was about to say. Oh, it's fine. Let's have fun. I'll try and work around the chairs. So like he said, I am head of, let's see if I can get this to work. Oh, there we go. It'll probably jump forward 4 slides, so we'll go back. Head of LifeLock acquisition. So I oversee all channels running into LifeLock. So everything offline, like Steve mentioned, TV, radio, direct mail, paid search, affiliate, display, online video. So that actually, I think, allows me to be very agnostic, which is what I try to be as a marketer. I've been there about 11 years now, but we've changed names 4 times, so it's easy to get confused. We've moved to a digital sign on the building, because that just saves money every time we change a company name. Actually, formerly University of Phoenix and Sky Mall. Yes, there was a time when you couldn't be online on an airplane, so you were looking at our catalogs, which was fun to be at. And joke's on you, you waited 3 days to hear a finance person tell you how to spend money. Came from finance, been in marketing about 10 years, but I think, you know, coming from finance, I see the world a little bit differently in marketing. And fun fact, love going to live music, been to 12 concerts in the last 12 years, including one of Toby Keith's last shows in Vegas in December, which was a real honor to go see. So why are we in audio? Oh, wait, that's right. So as a finance person, I turn marketing into a math formula. That's what I do. We spend money. So we as marketers really break it down to the simple. We spend money to talk to people. That's the first thing we do. And then we try to get them to our site to buy our products so that we can make more money than we spent at the end. See, $2 signs versus 1. So that's the whole goal of what we try to do in marketing. And this is how I try to look at the lens through everything that I do, and especially our audio business. So why are we in audio, right? I mean, who doesn't want to be this guy right here? Chances are he's actually listening to a LifeLock ad because we were doing radio way back when. But radio is a part of our culture. It's everywhere we go. It travels with us wherever we go. It's the music at parties. It's listening to the sports radio in your commute in. You know, and nowadays we all don't leave house with our cell phone. We also don't leave house without a pair of earphones, so we can listen to something as we're going about our day. And so this is why we've really been invested in audio for the last 15 plus years at LifeLock. Why are we there? I'm sure everybody's seen these stats, but that's because this is where the customer is. Customers are spending more than 4 hours a day listening to audio across all sorts of generations too, starting at 13 all the way up to the boomers. So this allows us to hit every one of our target audiences, and it's growing. You can see from 2021 to 2024, it's growing in almost every area. People are consuming more audio now than they were 3 years ago. And I think that number is only going to keep growing as the media consumption kind of moves with it. So that's why we're there, because this is where the consumer's at. Not only are they there, but a large majority of us spent listening to ad-supported media, which is very important. In this day of ad-supported, non-ad-supported opting out, almost 2/3 of time spent listening is on ad-supported radio. And the chart on the right, and this is super interesting, about 80% of it is still on AM/FM radio. And I think we as marketers, it's easy to get caught up in the latest thing, the buzzword, the podcast, the this, the that. There's still a large majority of the nation that's listening to AM/FM radio, whether it's in the car or whether it is streaming the AM/FM app. That is where the customers are, and that is why it's still a very big part of our audio strategy and our audio portfolio. Podcast is next, and then you see streaming music up at the top, but we really, as LifeLock, focus on the first two because that's where the customers are. So why has it worked for us? And I think this is a really great quote, because when you break audio down, it's just a man or a woman and a microphone. They're playing music, they're sharing stories, they're talking about issues. And when you think about when LifeLock started, we started an industry. We were the category. So we needed someone to help us tell that story about what is identity theft, because it's a very complicated issue. In fact, most people still don't understand it. But we couldn't just go out with a billboard, no offense, Lori, or just an ad. We needed someone to help tell that story, to help get across what is audio, or what is LifeLock? How can it help it? Why do you need this product? And when we started, the founder, back before I started, but we decided to lean into a very specific genre, conservative news talk. And that's where we felt like our audience was the people, the consumer who was going to buy our product was listening to conservative news talk. And Steve spoiled it for me, but When you find the right partner, it truly can transform your business. And we found that partner with Rush Limbaugh. He is kind of the broadcast unicorn in the sense that he had a huge audience, but he was also very influential over that audience. And he was with us from day one, and it really helped us grow our business and our brand. There was a while where he was probably 25% of our sales come from some sort of Rush Limbaugh attribution, which is amazing to think about. Even today, 2 years later, it's still the most used radio promo code. So if anybody asks you how long should radio take for attribution, 2 years is your answer. So there we go. That's the look back window. But he just was a believer in their product. But the beautiful thing about Rush was he was also very good to his advertisers. He would only do 1 live read per week per advertiser. So there wasn't that overflow or that influx of fatigue of hearing our ads, and it was something he believed in. I remember back about probably 7 or 8 years ago, there was a breach that occurred, and we worked to get a live read on spot, or a live spot on for him. Instead of a 60-second live read, he talked for about 5 minutes on the importance of LifeLock and how these data breaches happen. And as all of you know, you can't buy that media anymore. You can't get a 5-minute personal endorsement, almost an infomercial, about your product. But that's what audio can do. That's what finding the right partner can do, because they believe in it and they believe in your product and they want you to succeed. And we had a great partnership, but we also knew that as we wanted to grow, we couldn't be solely reliant on conservative news talk. We were also partnering with Sean Hannity, with Glenn Beck, but we needed to expand out. And that's when we started testing other endorsers. We were obviously firm believers of endorsement radio, right? That's the storyteller for you. So we've Colin Cowherd, Ryan Seacrest, we've tried Steve Harvey. Didn't necessarily work for us, but we were trying to find those audiences. Delilah, Elvis Duran in the morning show, and even now we're on with Bobby Bones, who's actually from the Austin area, but is now one of our better hosts. He's been with us for a long time. He is a great partner to work with. He's got this new segment on his show called Scam Alert. Oftentimes he will then throw in a free 15-second, LifeLock ad for us. Oftentimes he'll stop a show, like, oh, I just got an alert from LifeLock. And again, you can't buy that kind of endorsement or that kind of advertising. And that's what these hosts are able to give us, and allowed us to expand our reach into these other audiences. Sports is working out well for us. Ryan actually doesn't do live reads, true live reads, but it's still his voice, and it's an immense reach. And so he's working well for us. So we have branched out. And the nice thing about these shows is they were also allowed us our first foray kind of into podcasting, because these are some of the first shows that took their on-air show and then translated into a podcast. And so that was how we were able to get into the podcasting space, which is where we know we need to head next. I really appreciated Paul yesterday when he talked about, when he got to Honda, he said, I need to be on TikTok, not because that's where my buyers are today, but that's where my buyers of tomorrow are. And podcast is where our buyers of tomorrow are going to be. You can see the podcast listening has grown massively over the last 3 years. I think we all know that. We all listen to podcasts. But really, in the Gen Z and millennial age, that is a lot of what they consume too. First chart was a lot of AM/FM radio. That's the older generation. So I know that the buyers of tomorrow are on the podcast today, and so that's what we're really trying to do, to branch out into those other podcasts and find that audience. So here's where we've tested podcasting. The Joe Rogan Experience actually has worked very well for us. He's been pretty PG and pretty tame, which has been really good, but it's allowed us to reach an incremental audience that isn't, it's kind of the antithesis of the conservative news talk audience, and it has worked really well and allowed us to get that scale, which is the biggest attribute that I look for in new opportunities to scale. I need size. I need to be able to know that I can turn this into, a $1 million revenue opportunity, because that's just what I need to do to grow my business. Crime Junkie, stuff you should know. The Daily did not work that well for us. I think somebody said, everybody wants to be on The Daily. You can have it. I don't want it. Not to say it's bad, but but you have to know what works and what doesn't, and be okay to say this one doesn't work, even though it's the podcast everybody wants to be on. Ben Shapiro, actually have not been able to test with him. He's blocked by a competitor, but I think just another example of where we need to go with these podcasts and how we're looking at how to branch out and get these new audiences. And so as I look to the future, and what is our strategy going forward? So we think about the terrestrial radio, it's still a big piece for us. We've conquered the measurement in a way. We're partnered with a company called LeadsRx that we can pixel our data and see visits to the site and see conversions and understand, okay, is it driving the metric that I need? For me, radio is really a cost per visit metric. I want to get people to the site. That's the role of radio. I'll let the website worry about converting them. I need radio to get them to the site, and so I really focus on a cost per visit metric. As we move to the digital listening space of audio, right now we're in these apps, and so how can I partner with these apps to grow my business? With Spotify, we are testing into their SPAN network this upcoming quarter. Again, a lot of reach. How do I go get that massive audience? How do I go be in place incremental audiences that I'm not getting elsewhere? Because unlike video apps, I think audio apps customers are very loyal because their playlists don't transfer over like a movie does or a TV show does. And so it's rare to see a very heavy overlap with these apps. And so for Spotify, we're testing the SPAN network. Pandora, we've had great success actually doing non-guaranteed media. It's come at a lower CPM for us, which has allowed us to scale and be more efficient in that cost per visit. And we haven't run into delivery issues, which has been good. That's been one thing that's allowed us to grow. But again, that's non-conventional wisdom, is having that non-guaranteed. But again, it's a math formula. How can I grow the number of people that I reach at the lowest cost possible so I can make more money at the end? We have a great partnership with iHeartMedia, obviously started with a lot of those hosts and endorsements. And in the podcast space, we are now kind of switching our targeting from a show-based targeting to psychographic kind of audience-based targeting, where we are able to identify customers who fit our profile, who fit our demographic, and now I don't care what they listen to. I'm gonna hit them in any one of the shows that they're at. And we've seen about a 20% lift in efficiency by being able to do that. And that's one thing we're going to scale next with them, is how do we go then broaden that type of targeting so we can talk to these audiences. And we're trying to become part of the conversation. I think Diageo did it very well with the Grammys, Hyundai. I'm sure many of you know October 1st starts Cyber Safety Awareness Month. It's all on your calendars, and I'm sure that's everybody's very aware. But we are doing a takeover with iHeartMedia. We are taking over all of their airwaves and really dumping a lot of money into audio to be the voice of cyber safety. And it's an awareness, it's an education play. It's just be safe, we're here to help you, we are the expert. And so that's the first time we've ever really leaned in on the month that I would say LifeLock helped create the awareness for, which is Cyber Safety Awareness Month. And we're not just doing it for LifeLock, we're a house of brands. We're gonna activate on the Norton side of the house to try and see if maybe those audiences, the Steve Harvey or the Elvis Duran, is a better fit for our Norton product suite, and how do we think about that? We also, what's super exciting as part of our business is we sell LifeLock as an employee benefit. So as you're going through your voluntary benefits, you can, life insurance, health insurance, you can check LifeLock. So we're doing local targeting around the big employers that we've partnered with the message about look for us in your open enrollment, and look for us, ask your employer about how we can partner with us to bring you this benefit. And I think that's something the whole team is very excited about, because it's something we haven't done before, but it can be a very big needle mover. And if you think about a CEO of a company, like, oh, that's cool, they're on the radio, I want to partner with them. So that's going to be very interesting to see how we use audio, even outside of a direct-to-consumer way, but how we can leverage our audio expertise to help grow that side of the business. And then Steve really stole my thunder, because now audio is turning to video. And so how do we think about that? Because it's the same content, right? I'm listening to the podcast. I can listen to the same show on AM, FM radio, listen to it on a podcast, or watch it on YouTube. Now, what I'm trying to avoid is like, oh, that's not my channel, that's online video, I can't do anything with that. But no, it's the content, it's the same customer, and it's really forcing us to ask the question, what content do our customers want to listen to, and where do they want to consume it? And now it's a two-part question. So how do we think about audio as a full content strategy and a full content channel, and say, I just want to be wherever this customer is, because this is the content they are consuming. And so we're excited to see what happens there. That's obviously new, but it's something that we've tested and tried in podcasts and YouTube. But that's where we're going with audio, and that's our audio strategy.
Thank you, Steve. Questions?
Hi, good morning. Vivi with GSD&M Local. Thanks for sharing. Are you looking at audio as an influence to conversion? So it's a channel that is helping convert, or are you treating as a conversion channel only? And do you have an attribution model in place where you're looking at how each of your channels are contributing to that conversion, looking at the consumer journey?
Yeah, so we think of audio both. So part of the uniqueness of LifeLock is I am the Kleenex of the identity theft industry. I am the brand. My brand term is searched 10 times more than all of the non-brand terms combined. So we've created that. That's why we know this works, because of what we did in the space. We've created that. And so I think it's not really awareness, it's relevance for us, because people are already aware of who we are. But then when you think about our hosts, that's where we think about the conversion. And so we know audio can play multiple roles in the funnel. Attribution, do we have a model? Yes. Do I use it? Not really. But a lot of that's because, and it was said earlier, right? Models are never right, but sometimes they're useful. And so we use it as a single data point, but I really focus on, again, the signal metrics of what audio delivers. What's the cost per visit? Can I grow spend? Am I seeing visits translate? And then that's how I look at all my channels, because what I found is when you're focused on a single attribution, what often happens is the effort turns to taking credit for John Smith, and I just want 10 more John Smiths. And so how do we change that mindset of we're not fighting over the same person, it's how do I go grow the actual total? And so I think about attribution a little bit differently, because I don't want the focus to be on taking credit from what other channels are doing, but I understand the customer journey and know that just because the model says branded paid search is where I should be, I can't just spend infinitely there. Something's got to drive that search, especially for identity theft.
Very interesting to hear the take on audio. How do you think about audio? Oh, sorry, Joseph from Adform. How do you think about audio from a traditional, we'll call it like programmatic 5-15-second spot versus kind of more of the custom integrations that you were mentioning with the announcers, newscasts, whatever?
So that's where I think it plays multiple roles in the funnel. So we do not necessarily 15-second, but 30-second kind of produce what we call our reach spots. That's just out there. That's where we are out there, in the typical commercial breaks. And that's kind of what we use to stay relevant, and again, help us just reach people. And we know it works, because there was the big national public data breach, I guess 3 or 4 weeks ago, right, where every social security number in the United States was leaked. I couldn't enroll people fast enough. That's why I know this works, because when that happens, I'm the only brand that they think about. And I think that's what's unique about our brand is 90% of who I'm talking to doesn't realize they need me today, but I want to be the only brand that they think about when they do. And it's working, and that's why I believe in audio, because I've seen it. I've seen that, especially in these big kind of breaches. This one, Equifax 7 years ago, was the same thing. LifeLock was actually one of the top revenue-driving terms for Google because of the Equifax breach. When Google released for a week, it was because people were searching for LifeLock. They weren't searching for data breach. So that's how we use it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's...
Steve, as you're moving into more programmatic styles of ad insertion and you're using psychographic profiling, are you learning things about your consumer that maybe you didn't know before from the approach that you were taking?
So I don't know that we're learning new things about the consumer. I think what it's telling us is that I can't talk to everybody the same way. And so we skew slightly older, slightly more affluent, right? I mean, it makes sense. If I have something to lose, I want to protect it. But there's multiple categories of people that fit into that description. And so now what the psychographics is telling us is it shouldn't just be an audio spot that's different. I need to think through that through the whole funnel, and how do I use that to target in a display ad or in an online video ad in an OTT. So I think it's not necessarily provided new insights about who our customer is. I think it's provided the insights on, wow, there are quite differences between them, even though at a level they share these common traits.
Can you tell us what overall share of spend is going to audio?
It is 20-ish%. Up from, it's almost doubled over the last 12 months. I knew audio, and specifically streaming audio, was an area of scale. That again, it's all about the scale, and so it's a pretty big share of our spend.
One more here.
One more?
I just have Kendall with strategic marketing. So I love audio. I sold radio for 20 years and then I moved to the agency side. What are you seeing in the markets that you're buying local radio? Are you using endorsers that are on the local side, or are you just, as you're moving into the Joe Rogans and things like that, like, are you still doing that? And then I guess my next question would be, what have you seen as far as a decline in the spend, right? Like, depending on like what your budget used to be, like say 5 years ago, what the budget is now for that local radio?
So we don't do a lot of local radio. We're activating local for the employee benefit section because that's where the employees are. Now, as we think and as we work through this new segmentation, it may pop back up again as, oh, I have a high concentration in this area. I should probably look local. When we did try local DJs, I think it came down to scale. I mean, when you're competing with a Rush Limbaugh or a Ryan Seacrest and you're trying to look at a local host, it just came down to it just wasn't moving the needle enough, and there became too many mouths to feed in the audio portfolio, and so we had to kind of make that decision. But in terms of portion of spend, I think now it's like, okay, let's be smart about where we are. Where it may reemerge itself back again as pockets that we can go into, especially larger markets if it's a real big fit for our demographic.
Steve, that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.